Hello and welcome to Historical World of English, where you'll find the most recent news, entertaining moments, and behind-the-scenes accounts you won't want to miss. The history of the United States from 1789 to 1815 includes the selection of George Washington as the nation's first president by the Electoral College in 1789. In 1790, the national capital moved to Philadelphia, then to Washington, D.C. in 1800. The establishment of a robust national government that was acknowledged by all Americans was the Washington administration's primary achievement. Under the ardent leadership of Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton, the government in Washington assumed the state debts, established the Bank of the United States, and established a uniform system of tariffs and other taxes to pay off the debt and construct a financial infrastructure. Hamilton established the Federalist Party as a means of supporting his plans. The Congress amended the United States Bill of Rights in 1791 to include the phrase United States in order to placate the anti-federalists who feared an overly powerful central government. Constitution to protect individual liberties like freedom of religion and speech. The opposition Republican Party, also known as the Democratic Republican Party, was founded by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. The Jay Treaty, signed by Hamilton and Washington in 1794, brought the nation back into good standing with Britain. The Jeffersonians protested vehemently, and voters voted for one or the other party, establishing the first party system. Politics became extremely contentious despite the treaty's passage. The Northwest Indian War, the ongoing Cherokee-American Wars, and the 1794 Whiskey Rebellion, in which Western settlers protested a federal tax on liquor, were significant obstacles for the new federal government. Washington set an example for future administrations by refusing to serve more than 2 terms. In the 1796 election, Jefferson was defeated by Federalist Party candidate John Adams. The Federalists took advantage of the impending conflict with France to try to silence the Republicans with the Alien and Sedition Acts. In addition, they built a large army under Hamilton's command in preparation for a French invasion. However, the Federalists became divided after Adams sent a successful peace mission to France that ended the quasi-war of 1798, 65-69. Increasing demand for slave labor. Slavery in the United States. During the first 2 decades after the Revolutionary War, there were dramatic changes in the status of slavery among the states and an increase in the number of free blacks. The northern states abolished slavery as a result of their reduced economic reliance on the use of slaves and their inspiration from revolutionary ideals of equality. States in the Upper South made manumission easier, which led to an increase in the percentage of free blacks in the Upper South as a percentage of the total non-white population from less than 1% in 1792 to over 10% by that date. A total of 13.5% of all blacks in the United States were free. In 1807, with 4 million slaves already in the United States, Congress severed U.S. involvement with the Atlantic slave trade. Awakening of the Second Great Awakening. In the early 19th century, a Protestant revival movement known as the Second Great Awakening was responsible for rapid church growth and had an impact on virtually all aspects of society. It began around 1990 and gained momentum by 1800. Baptist and Methodist congregations, whose preachers led the movement, saw a rapid increase in membership after 1820. By the 1840s, it had reached its low point. The movement enrolled millions of new members in existing evangelical denominations and led to the formation of new denominations.
The Second Great Awakening stimulated the establishment of many reform movements, including abolitionism and temperance. Jeffersonian republicanism and Louisiana Purchase and Thomas Jefferson's presidency. Jay Adams was narrowly defeated by Thomas Jefferson in the 1800 presidential election. The Louisiana Purchase, signed in 1803, was Jefferson's greatest accomplishment as president. It gave American settlers a lot of room to grow west of the Mississippi River. He supported expeditions to explore and map the new domain, most notably the Lewis and Clark expedition. Jefferson believed deeply in republicanism and advocated that it should be based on the independent yeoman farmer and planter. He distrusted cities, factories, and banks. Additionally, he attempted to weaken the judiciary and distrusted the federal government. Although the Constitution specified a Supreme Court, its functions were vague until John Marshall, the Chief Justice of the United States, 1801 to 1835, defined them, especially the power to overturn acts of Congress or states that violated the Constitution, first enunciated in 1803 in the Marbury v. Madison case. 1812 War. The War of 1812. Also see History of the United States, 1789 to 1815. During the early 19th century, Anglo-American relations deteriorated over a variety of reasons. After the Orders in Council of 1807, British authorities began seizing American merchant ships that were trading with France and its allies. Congress had passed the Embargo Act of 1807 in an unsuccessful attempt to coerce Britain to rescind the Orders in Council, which ultimately hurt the American economy more than the British. The Royal Navy began stopping American ships and reclaiming alleged deserters after thousands of its sailors left and found work on American merchant ships. Britain also provided support to Native Americans resisting expansionism by U.S. colonizers, with the aim of forming an Indian barrier state that would halt American expansionism. On June 18, 1812, Congress declared war on the United Kingdom, despite strong opposition from the Northeast, especially from Federalists who did not want to disrupt trade with Britain. Neither side was successful in its attempt to invade the other. Multiple American invasions of Canada were unsuccessful due to the soldiers' reluctance to leave home and the ineffectiveness of the American militia. The Treasury was forced into bankruptcy as a result of British blockades, which further enraged New Englanders who began smuggling supplies to Britain. The Americans eventually gained naval control of Lake Erie under General William Henry Harrison, defeated Tecumseh's Indians in Canada, and put an end to the Indian threat of permanent expansion into the Midwest. There was an end to the Indian threat of permanent expansion into the Midwest. A lot of Maine was taken over and invaded by the British. In 1814, the British attacked Washington and set it on fire, but they were stopped at Baltimore, where they wrote the Star-Spangled Banner to celebrate America's success. At the Battle of Plattsburgh in upstate New York, a significant British invasion of New York State was defeated, and at the Battle of New Orleans in early 1815, Jackson decisively defeated another invasion. Although the American and British peace treaty of the Treaty of Ghent had been signed, news of the treaty had not reached Louisiana before the New Orleans battle. Jackson's victory at New Orleans prompted pro-war Americans to refer to the war as a Second War of Independence, and the War of 1812 contributed to the formation of an emerging American identity that placed national pride ahead of state pride. 1807, 1808, 1809. Play/able/time/needed. 1811. The war also dispelled America's negative perception of a standing army, as opposed to ill-equipped and poorly trained militias. 1815. Era of positive attitudes. Era of positive attitudes. The Federalists lost their status as a political party as a result of the national euphoria that followed their victory in New Orleans. President Madison and the majority of Republicans came to the realization that they had made a mistake by allowing the First Bank of the United States to close, because the absence of the bank had significantly hampered the financing of the war. In 1816, they chartered the Second Bank of the United States with the assistance of foreign bankers. 1816, 1817. Additionally, the Republicans enacted tariffs to protect the fledgling industries that had emerged during Britain's blockade of the United States. Society entered an era of good feelings and eliminated the